Chapter 1. Blood of the Covenant. Damon Briggs stood on the balcony of his Montana ranch house, watching the sun set behind the mountain range. At 45, he had built an empire from the ground up, a chain of high-end hunting lodges that catered to the wealthy elite who yearned for authentic wilderness experiences without sacrificing luxury. His weathered hands gripped the railing as he contemplated the call he'd received earlier that day. His stepdaughter, Vanessa, had sounded excited about the surprise party she was organizing for her mother's 50th birthday. Despite the fact that Colette wasn't Vanessa's biological mother, the girl had thrown herself into the planning with characteristic determination. Vanessa had been just 8 when Damon married her mother, Adelaide. When Adelaide died of cancer 5 years later, Damon had continued raising Vanessa as his own. Colette had entered their lives when Vanessa was 16. Beautiful, charming, and seemingly accepting of the wheelchair-bound teenager who came as part of the package with Damon. It had been 8 years since then, and Damon had done everything to provide the perfect life for his new family. Thinking about work again, Colette's voice interrupted his thoughts as she joined him on the balcony, wrapping her arms around his waist. Just appreciating what we've built, Damon replied, turning to face his wife. She was still stunning at nearly 50, tall and graceful with auburn hair that caught the last golden rays of sunlight. You built, you mean? Colette said with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. I'm just along for the ride. That's not true, Damon said. You've been instrumental in the social connections that brought in our wealthiest clients. He didn't mention that he'd noticed those social engagements had been increasing lately, often without him. Well, speaking of social connections, Colette said, I've been invited to a weekend retreat with the Wilderness Conservation Board next month. It's in Jackson Hole. Another one? Damon raised an eyebrow. That's the 3rd retreat in 2 months. It's important networking, Damon. You know that. Colette's tone had a sharp edge that hadn't been there in the early years of their marriage. Of course, Damon nodded, his face betraying nothing of his suspicions. He built his business on understanding people's tells, knowing when a client was bluffing about their hunting experience, or when a competitor was hiding financial troubles. And Colette had tells of her own that had been multiplying. Later that evening, while Colette was taking a bath, Damon's phone rang. Vanessa's name flashed on the screen. Hey kiddo, he answered warmly. Dad. Vanessa's voice was filled with excitement. I finalized almost everything for Mom's party. The venue, the catering, the entertainment. It's going to be amazing. Damon smiled. At 24, Vanessa had inherited his determination and business acumen despite being confined to a wheelchair since the car accident that killed her biological father when she was 6. She had graduated top of her class and now worked remotely as a software developer. I can't wait to see it. She'll be blown away, Damon said. How much do you need for the final payments? That's why I'm calling. Vanessa has added. The total came to more than I expected. With the last-minute changes to accommodate everyone on Mom's guest list, it's $3,300. Damon whistled. That's quite a party. I know it's a lot. Vanessa said quickly. I can cover some from my savings, but... Nonsense, Damon interrupted. I'll transfer the money tonight. Colette deserves the best. After hanging up, Damon sat in his office, staring at the framed photo on his desk. Himself, Colette, and Vanessa had Vanessa's college graduation. They looked happy, a perfect family, but something had shifted in the last year. Subtle changes in Colette's behavior, unexplained absences, and now these frequent retreats. Damon opened his laptop and transferred the money to Vanessa's account. Then, after a moment's consideration, he opened another program. One that would allow him to remotely access Colette's phone the next time she connected to their home Wi-Fi. In his years building his business, Damon had learned one critical lesson. Trust was valuable, but verification was priceless. Chapter 2. Uninvited. 3 weeks passed in a blur of activity. Vanessa called or texted daily with updates about the party, and Damon marveled at her attention to detail. She had coordinated with Colette's friends to ensure the guest list included everyone important in her stepmother's life, hired a small orchestra to play Colette's favorite classical pieces, and arranged for a renowned chef to cater. Meanwhile, Damon's suspicions about Colette continued to grow. The remote access to her phone had revealed text messages with someone saved simply as G, innocuous on the surface but laden with subtext. There were unexplained hours when her phone's GPS showed her at locations she never mentioned visiting, including a luxury apartment building in Bozeman. 5 days before the party, Damon was reviewing large bookings in his home office when Vanessa called. "Dad," her voice was tight with emotion. "Something's wrong." "What is it?" Damon sat up straight, immediately alert. "I just got off the phone with Trent Walsh," Vanessa said. Trent was the event coordinator at the venue Vanessa had booked. He called to confirm the final arrangements, and he mentioned something odd. He asked if we needed to set up the accessible entrance for the party. "And, Dad," he said, Mom specifically told him not to worry about wheelchair access because no one attending would need it. Vanessa's voice cracked. "I thought maybe it was a misunderstanding, so I called Renee to double-check the guest list." Renee Phillips was Colette's closest friend, a woman Damon had never particularly trusted. "What did she say?" Damon asked, though he already suspected the answer. "She got flustered," Vanessa said. "Started making excuses. Then she finally admitted that Mom had asked her not to include me on the guest list. She said," Vanessa paused, clearly fighting back tears. "She said Mom told her the party was for close family and friends only. And that I'm not her real daughter anyway." The silence that followed was deafening. Damon felt a cold rage building inside him, the kind he hadn't experienced since his early days before he'd made his fortune when rivals had tried to muscle him out of business deals. "I see," he said finally, his voice dangerously calm. "Dad, I've spent 3 weeks organizing this. I've called in favors, coordinated with dozens of people. I wanted it to be perfect for her." Vanessa's voice was small. "Why would she do this?" Damon closed his eyes, thinking of the pieces that were starting to fall into place. "I don't know, sweetheart, but I'm going to find out." After reassuring Vanessa and ending the call, Damon sat motionless at his desk. 8 years of marriage, and he believed Khaled had accepted Vanessa as her own. He'd made his expectations clear from the beginning. Vanessa was his daughter in every way that mattered, and anyone in his life needed to accept that. Had it all been a facade, or had something changed? The door to his office opened and Khaled walked in, smiling. "There you are. I was thinking we could go out for dinner tonight. That new place in town everyone's talking about." Damon studied his wife's face, the face he'd woken up to for 8 years. "Actually, I wanted to talk to you about your birthday party." Khaled smiled, faltered slightly. "What about it? It's supposed to be a surprise, isn't it?" "It was," Damon said evenly, until Vanessa found out she wasn't invited. The change in Khaled's expression was subtle but unmistakable. First surprise, then irritation, finally settling into a defensive posture. "Oh, that. I was going to talk to you about it." "Were you?" Damon leaned back in his chair. "When exactly?" "The day of the party when we showed up without her." "Don't be dramatic, Damon." Khaled waved a dismissive hand. "It's an adult party at an upscale venue. Vanessa wouldn't enjoy it anyway. It's not appropriate for her." "Not appropriate." Damon's voice remained level, but his eyes had turned to steel. "The party she spent 3 weeks organizing. The party I paid $3,300 for. That party isn't appropriate for my daughter." Khaled flinched at the amount. "She spent that much. That's excessive. And she's not." She stopped herself, but not quickly enough. "Not what, Khaled? Not your real daughter." Damon stood slowly. "Is that what you were going to say?" "You're twisting my words," Khaled said, but her eyes darted away. "I just meant this is a milestone birthday for me. I wanted to celebrate with my closest friends without worrying about accommodations." "Accommodations," Damon repeated the word like it was poison. "You mean the wheelchair? You're making this into something it's not." Khaled insisted. "It's my birthday. Shouldn't I get to decide who's there?" "Of course," Damon nodded. "And I get to decide where I'll be. Which, as it turns out, won't be at your party." Khaled's eyes widened. "Don't be ridiculous. You have to be there. What will people think?" "I imagine they'll think whatever you tell them." Damon said, "You're quite good at that." He walked to the door and opened it. A clear dismissal. "We won't be attending your party, Khaled. Vanessa and I will celebrate elsewhere. But don't worry, we'll send a gift." Chapter 3, The Package. The morning of Khaled's birthday, Damon and Vanessa had breakfast together at his downtown office. The sleek, modern space overlooked the heart of the small Montana city where Briggs Luxury Expeditions had its headquarters. "You didn't have to skip the party for me, Dad," Vanessa said, though her grateful smile suggested otherwise. If you're not welcome, I'm not interested in attending. Damon replied, spreading jam on his toast. Besides, I thought we could use this time to talk about some business ideas I've been considering. Your technical expertise could be valuable. Vanessa perked up. Despite her remote work as a software developer for a tech company, she had always been interested in her father's business. What kind of ideas, she asked. Digital expansion, Damon said, virtual reality experiences of our expeditions, advanced booking systems, maybe even a membership platform. The luxury wilderness experience market is changing and we need to stay ahead. As they discussed possibilities, Damon's phone buzzed with a text. He glanced at it and his expression hardened. What is it? Vanessa asked. Nothing important. Damon said, slipping the phone into his pocket, but it was important. Very important. The text was from Perry Holt, the private investigator he'd hired to watch the luxury apartment in Bozeman. The message was brief. Mail subject identified as Gavin Russell, photos and background incoming. Damon refocused on his daughter. So what do you think? Could you help develop something like that? Vanessa nodded enthusiastically. Absolutely. I've been working with VR interfaces for the last 6 months. I could definitely build a prototype. Good. Damon smiled. Then I'll make it official. I'd like to hire you as our director of digital innovation. Vanessa's eyes widened. Are you serious? Completely. Damon said, it's time Briggs' luxury expeditions moved into the future. And there's no one I trust more to lead that charge than you. Their conversation was interrupted by Damon's assistant, Lloyd, entering with a package. This just arrived for Mrs. Briggs's party, sir, Lloyd said. The messenger said it needed to be delivered to the venue by noon. Damon glanced at the elegantly wrapped box. Thank you, Lloyd. I'll make sure it gets there. After Lloyd left, Vanessa raised an eyebrow. I thought we weren't participating in the party. We're not attending. Damon corrected. But I did promise we'd send a gift. What is it? Vanessa asked curiously. Damon's smile didn't reach his eyes. Just something to mark the occasion. Later that afternoon, as Colette's birthday celebration was in full swing at the upscale venue Vanessa had selected, Damon received another text. This one from Renee Phillips. What the hell was in that gift? Half the guests left after she opened it. Damon slipped his phone back into his pocket without replying and turned to Vanessa. It seems your stepmother is enjoying our gift. What did you send her? Vanessa asked, a hint of concern in her voice. The truth. Damon said simply. Now let's talk more about this VR concept. I think we could revolutionize how people experience wilderness adventures. As they continued their discussion, Damon's phone buzzed repeatedly with incoming messages, all of which he ignored. The only one he would read later was the detailed background report on Gavin Russell, including his connection to the Wilderness Conservation Board, his previous marriages, and most importantly, his relationship with Colette. The gift Damon had sent contained a simple USB drive. On it was a meticulously compiled slideshow of photos. Colette entering the luxury apartment building in Bozeman. Colette and Gavin Russell embracing in a restaurant. Screenshots of their text conversations and financial records showing transfers from Damon's accounts to unknown recipients that coincided with Colette's retreats. The final slide was a photo of Damon and Vanessa taken that morning with a simple caption, "Happy birthday from your family. We hope you enjoy the party we paid for." When Colette finally returned home that night, her face was ashen. She found Damon sitting calmly in the living room, drinking a glass of whiskey. "How long have you known?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "Long enough," Damon replied. "But not as long as you've been lying. I can explain." "I'm sure you can." Damon cut her off. "But I'm not interested in explanations. What I am interested in is what happens next." He sat down his glass. "And that, Colette, is entirely up to you." The look in his eyes told her everything she needed to know. This wasn't a man who would forgive, forget, or compromise. This was a man calculating exactly how to dismantle her world, piece by piece. Chapter 4, Paper Trails. Colette moved out the day after her disastrous birthday party. She left with 2 suitcases and a cloud of excuses, claiming she needed space to think. Damon made no attempt to stop her. Instead, he watched from the window as she loaded her luggage into her Mercedes and drove away, presumably to her lover's Bozeman apartment. "Are you okay, Dad?" Vanessa asked, willing herself into the room after Colette had gone. Damon turned from the window. "I'm fine. This has been coming for a while. I think. What happens now?" "Now," Damon said, "we see just how deep this rabbit hole goes. The following morning, Damon called his most trusted employee, Bennett Webb, the operations manager who had been with him since the early days of Briggs' luxury expeditions. "I need a complete audit of all company accounts for the last 3 years," Damon said when Bennett arrived at his home office. "And I need absolute discretion." Bennett, a former military intelligence officer with a square jaw and calculating eyes, nodded. "Does this have something to do with Mrs. Briggs leaving?" "It has everything to do with it," Damon confirmed. "I have reason to believe she may have been diverting company funds." "To where?" Bennett's expression remained professionally neutral. "That's what we need to find out." Damon handed him a file. "This is everything I've gathered so far about her, Associate Gavin Russell. I want to know every connection between them, every financial transaction, every property they might share." "Consider it done," Bennett said, taking the file. "What about the other operations? The expansion plans?" "Proceed as normal," Damon instructed. "Vanessa will be joining the company as Director of Digital Innovation. She'll work closely with you on the technological aspects of the expansion." After Bennett left, Damon made another call to Serena Walsh, his attorney. Unlike his soft-spoken operations manager, Serena was renowned for her aggressive approach to business and matrimonial law. "I need you to prepare divorce papers," Damon said without preamble when she answered. "On what grounds?" Serena asked. "All business. Infidelity, financial and propriety, and whatever else you can throw in," Damon replied. "And I want the most airtight prenuptial enforcement you can manage." "The prenup is solid, Damon," Serena assured him. "We made sure of that before you married her, but I'll need evidence of the infidelity and financial issues to really lock this down." "You'll have it," Damon promised. Over the next 2 weeks, Damon immersed himself in his investigation. The remote access to Colette's phone provided a treasure trove of information, text messages, emails, photos, and location data. Bennett's financial audit revealed concerning patterns, consulting fees paid to shell companies, unexplained expenses charged to company accounts, and discrepancies in the books that have been carefully disguised. But it was Perry Holt's investigation of Gavin Russell that yielded the most disturbing revelations. Russell wasn't just Colette's lover. He was a sophisticated, con man with a history of pursuing wealthy women, bleeding them dry, and disappearing. He had been married 3 times. Each marriage ending after his wife's assets had been mysteriously depleted. Most concerning of all, Russell had connections to several of Briggs' luxury expeditions' competitors. The timing of certain business setbacks, lost contracts, leaked proposals, post-clients coincided perfectly with Colette's increased involvement with Russell. Damon sat across from Perry in a private room at his downtown office reviewing the findings. "So they've been planning this for what, a year? 2 years?" Damon asked, his voice cold. "At least 18 months, Perry confirmed. Based on the electronic trail, they met at a conservation gala in Denver. The relationship escalated quickly after that. And the money? Conservative estimate? About $800,000 diverted through various channels. Some through consulting fees to companies Russell controls, some through inflated vendor contracts where he gets kickbacks, and some direct transfers disguised as charitable donations to conservation groups that don't actually exist." Damon nodded, processing the information. "What about the competitors? Any direct evidence of corporate espionage?" "Nothing that would stand up in court," Perry admitted, "but the circumstantial evidence is strong. Every time you lost a major client or had a proposal undercut, Colette had access to the information and met with Russell shortly before." "That's enough for me," Damon said. "What about the properties?" "Russell owns the apartment in Bozeman, but we found evidence they've been looking at houses together in Costa Rica. There have been several wire transfers to a bank there, totaling about $150,000. Damon's phone buzzed with a text from Vanessa. "Mom called, wants to talk. Says it's important." "Should I meet her?" Damon frowned at the message. Colette hadn't contacted him directly since leaving, communicating only through her attorney. Now she was reaching out to Vanessa. "I need to go," he told Perry. "Send me everything you have. And keep digging. I want to know every last detail of their operation." As he drove to Vanessa's apartment, Damon pieced together what this new development might mean. If Colette was reaching out to Vanessa, she was getting desperate. The preliminary divorce papers had been served the previous day, outlining the enforcement of the prenuptial agreement that would leave Colette with a modest settlement at best. She must have realized that her comfortable lifestyle was about to come crashing down. Vanessa was waiting for him when he arrived. She sounded upset, she told him. Said she needed to explain things to me. That it wasn't what it looked like. It's exactly what it looks like, Damon said grimly. But I'm curious what story she's concocted. They didn't have to wait long. Precisely at the appointed time, there was a knock at Vanessa's door. When Vanessa opened it, Colette stood there, looking considerably less polished than usual. Her designer clothes had been replaced with jeans and a simple blouse, and her makeup was minimal. Thank you for seeing me, she said, her eyes darting nervously to Damon. I didn't know you'd be here. Did you think I'd let you manipulate my daughter without being present? Damon asked Colette. Colette flinched. I'm not here to manipulate anyone. I just want to explain. Then explain. Vanessa said, her voice uncharacteristically hard. Explain why you excluded me from the party I planned. Explain why you've been betraying my father. Colette sank onto the couch. It's complicated. Gavin. He has a way of making you believe anything. When we met, he told me he could help expand Damon's business internationally. He knew people had connections. I thought I was helping. By sleeping with him, by giving him access to confidential information. Damon's voice was like ice. It didn't start that way, Colette insisted. It started as business. Then it changed. He made me feel valued, appreciated, not just as an accessory to your success. So this is my fault. Damon raised an eyebrow. No, that's not what I'm saying. Colette backpedaled. I made mistakes. Terrible mistakes. But Gavin isn't who you think he is. He's dangerous. Damon. When I told him I wanted to end things, he threatened me. Said he had evidence I'd helped him steal company information, that I'd go to jail. And the party? Vanessa asked quietly. How does that fit into this sob story? Colette had the grace to look ashamed. That was wrong. Inexcusably wrong. Gavin said, he said having you there would complicate things, that we needed to distance ourselves from family attachments. So you just went along with it? Vanessa's voice trembled with anger. After everything my dad has done for you, I wasn't thinking clearly. Colette whispered. I've been trapped in this situation. Afraid to leave. Afraid to stay. I need help. Damon, I'll tell you everything. Give you all the evidence you need against Gavin. If you'll just help me get out of this. Damon studied his wife's face. The face he'd once trusted completely. Was she telling the truth? Was she another of Russell's victims, manipulated and threatened? Or was this just another con? A last-ditch effort to salvage something from the wreckage of her schemes? You want my help? He said finally. What exactly are you asking for? Protection? Colette said. And leniency. I know I've done unforgivable things, but I was coerced. I can help you get everything back. Expose Gavin for what he is. Damon exchanged a glance with Vanessa, whose expression remained skeptical. I'll consider it, Damon said after a long pause. But I'll need everything. Every email, every text, every account number, every meeting you had with him. And I'll need to verify your story. Of course, Colette nodded eagerly. Whatever you need, I just want this nightmare to be over. After she left, Vanessa turned to her father. You don't believe her, do you? Damon's expression was unreadable. I believe in evidence. And right now, all the evidence points to her being a willing participant in Russell's schemes. But if she's offering to provide information we can use against him, you're going to use her. Vanessa realized. Just as she used us, Damon confirmed. The difference is, I'm being transparent about it. Chapter 5, Crocodile Tears. The next morning, Ben at Webb arrived at Damon's home with additional findings from the audit. The new information painted an even more damning picture of Colette's involvement in the financial improprieties. There's no way she wasn't aware of what was happening. Bennett concluded, showing Damon a series of emails where Colette had specifically instructed the accounting department to process payments to the shell companies. These weren't just rubber stamp approvals. She was actively directing the funds. Damon nodded, unsurprised. What about her claim that Russell threatened her? Possible, but unlikely given the timeline. Bennett said. These diversions started small and gradually increased. Classic embezzlement pattern. If she was being coerced, you'd expect to see sudden, large transfers. That's what I thought, Damon said. Still, we'll play along with her story for now. It gives us access to information we might not get otherwise. What's the end game here? Bennett asked. The divorce is proceeding. We've already frozen her access to company accounts, and we're documenting everything for potential criminal charges. What more do you want? Damon's expression darkened. Justice. Colette and Russell didn't just steal money. They betrayed trust. They tried to dismantle everything I've built. Everything that would have been Vanessa's legacy. That deserves more than just a legal response. Bennett studied his boss carefully. What kind of response are you thinking? The kind that ensures they never do this to anyone else. Damon said. The kind that leaves them with exactly what they plan to leave me with. Nothing. Later that day, Damon met with Colette at a quiet cafe on the edge of town, neutral territory. She arrived carrying a laptop and several folders, looking nervous but determined. I've brought everything I have, she said, sliding into the booth across from him. Account numbers, meeting dates, emails, everything. And in return, Damon asked, making no move to touch the materials. Like I said, protection and leniency, Colette replied. I know the prenup is ironclad, but maybe we could work out something more equitable. And I need your help dealing with Gavin. He's dangerous. Damon. More dangerous than you know. Damon considered her words. Tell me about the Coast of Rica property. Colette's eyes widened slightly. Tell. What property? The one you and Russell have been transferring money to purchase. Damon said calmly. The one you plan to escape to after completing your little operation. That's Gavin's project. Colette stammered. He mentioned something about an investment property, but I wasn't involved in that. Interesting. Damon said. Because the wire transfers came from our joint account. The one I set up for your personal use. The one only you had access to. Colette's face pale. I can explain. I'm sure you can. Damon cut her off. Just like you can explain why you told Vanessa's friend Trent that no one in wheelchairs would be attending your party. Just like you can explain why you refer to my daughter as not your real daughter. Renee misunderstood. Colette insisted. I never meant. Save it. Damon said. His voice suddenly hard. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to give me everything you have on Russell. Every dirty little detail. Not for leniency. Not for protection. But because it's the only way you'll walk away from this with anything at all. Are you threatening me? Colette asked, her voice small. I'm making you an offer. Damon corrected. Cooperate fully and the divorce proceeds is outlined in the prenup. You get the settlement we agreed to 8 years ago. Withhold anything, try to play me against Russell. And I'll make sure you're implicated in every illegal act you two committed. You wouldn't. Colette whispered. It would damage the company. Your reputation. Try me. Damon said, his eyes cold. I rebuilt once before. I can do it again if necessary. After a long moment, Colette nodded. Fine. What do you want to know? For the next 2 hours, Damon meticulously extracted every detail of the operation. Russell's methods, their communication systems, the competitors involved, the offshore accounts. Colette held nothing back. Whether out of fear or self-preservation, she provided names, dates, and details that filled in the remaining gaps in Damon's understanding. By the time they finished, Damon had a complete picture of the scheme, and it was even more extensive than he'd initially believed. Russell wasn't just after Damon's money. He was systematically targeting the entire luxury expedition industry. Using information from one company to gain advantage with another, playing competitors against each other for his own gain. One last thing, Damon said as they prepared to leave. Does Russell know about the divorce papers? About the gift at the party? Yes, Colette admitted. He was furious. Said you'd ruined everything. That we'd have to accelerate the timeline. Accelerate to what? The final extraction, he called it, taking everything we could and disappearing. That's why I came to you. I realized how deep I was in and I got scared. Damon nodded, processing this information. Here's what you're going to do. You're going to tell Russell that I'm considering a settlement outside the prenup. That you've convinced me there might have been a misunderstanding. That I'm willing to meet with both of you to discuss terms. He won't believe that. Colette said. Not after the party. Make him believe it. Damon insisted. Tell him I'm desperate to avoid scandal. That I'll pay to keep things quiet. He's greedy. He'll believe what he wants to believe. And then what? Colette asked. Then Damon said, standing to leave. We all get what we deserve. Chapter 6, Best Served Cold. The meeting was set for the following Friday at Damon's downtown office, neutral ground in the coming confrontation. In the days leading up to it, Damon worked tirelessly to prepare, coordinating with Bennett, Perry and Serena to ensure every detail was perfect. Are you sure about this approach? Serena asked during their final strategy session. We have enough evidence for criminal charges. We could let the legal system handle them. The legal system is slow and uncertain, Damon replied, and it would generate precisely the kind of publicity that would damage the company. No, this way is cleaner, more definitive, and Colette. Bennett asked, can we trust her to play her part? We don't need to trust her, Damon said. She'll do what's in her best interest, which right now aligns with her goals. After that, he shrugged. After that, she's on her own. The day before the meeting, Vanessa called her father. Are you sure you don't want me there tomorrow? Absolutely sure, Damon said firmly. This isn't going to be pleasant. I'm not fragile, Dad, Vanessa insisted. I've been through worse than watching you take down the woman who couldn't even invite me to a party I organized. It's not about protecting you, Damon explained. It's about Russell. He doesn't know how much you know, how involved you are in the business. I want to keep it that way. It gives us an advantage. For what? Vanessa asked, her voice suspicious. Dad, what exactly are you planning? Justice, Damon said simply. Now, tell me about the progress on the VR prototype. The board is excited about your presentation next month. The change of subject was deliberate and Vanessa reluctantly allowed it. What Damon didn't tell his daughter was that the VR project was more than just a business expansion. It was a key component of his plan for Colette and Russell. Friday arrived clear and cold, a typical Montana autumn day. Damon dressed meticulously in one of his finest suits, armor for the battle ahead. He arrived at the office early, ensuring everything was in place. Bennett and Perry would be monitoring from the adjacent conference room, while Serena would join them directly for the legal aspects. At precisely 10 o'clock, Colette arrived. She looked nervous but composed, dressed conservatively in a navy business suit. Are you ready for this? Damon asked her. As ready as I'll ever be, she replied. Gavin thinks this is his chance to negotiate a final payout. He has no idea what's really happening. Good. Damon nodded. Remember, stick to the script. Let him believe what he wants to believe until the moment of truth. 20 minutes later, Gavin Russell strode into the office with the confidence of a man who believed he held all the cards. He was younger than Damon had expected, perhaps early 40s, with the polished good looks of someone who relied on charm as a professional tool. His handshake was firm, his smile practiced. Mr. Briggs, he said smoothly. It's good to finally meet you properly. I wish it were under better circumstances. Indeed, Damon replied, gesturing toward the conference table where Colette was already seated. Shall we get down to business? Once they were all seated, Serena joined them, introducing herself as Damon's legal counsel. Russell raised an eyebrow but said nothing, clearly recalculating his approach. I understand you believe we can reach some kind of arrangement. Russell began. One that would be mutually beneficial. That depends on your definition of beneficial. Damon said, Colette has shared some concerning information about your relationship and certain business activities. Russell's eyes flicked to Colette, who looked down at her hands. I'm sure there have been misunderstandings. Emotions running high. Accusations made in the heat of the moment. No misunderstandings, Damon said calmly. In fact, we have a very clear picture of exactly what's been happening. He opened a folder and slid several documents across the table. Financial transfers. Shell companies. Corporate espionage. It's all here, Mr. Russell. Russell glanced at the papers, his expression carefully neutral. I'm not sure what you're implying, but if there have been financial irregularities, I'm sure Colette can explain them. As for our personal relationship, well, these things happen in marriages. Perhaps if you've been more attentive. Let's not play games. Damon cut them off. We know everything. The previous marriages, the scams, the pattern of targeting wealthy women and businesses. Costa Rica. Everything. For the first time, Russell's confidence wavered. These are serious accusations. If you're threatening me, it's not a threat. It's a statement of fact, Serena interjected. We have enough evidence for criminal charges against both of you. Both of us. Russell's eyes narrowed as he looked at Colette. What exactly have you told them? The truth, Gavin? Colette said, her voice trembling slightly. It's over. I can't do this anymore. Russell's charm vanished, replaced by cold calculation. I see. And now you think you can save yourself by throwing me to the wolves. How convenient. Nobody's being thrown anywhere yet. Damon said. That's why we're having this conversation. To determine how we proceed. What exactly are you offering? Russell asked cautiously. Damon leaned forward. A clean break. No criminal charges. No public scandal. You return every penny you've taken. Dissolve any connections to my competitors and disappear. Permanently. And if I refuse an answer. Damon pressed a button on the conference phone. Bennett, please join us with the files. Bennett entered carrying a large box which he placed on the table before departing silently. This contains copies of everything we have. Damon explained. Every transaction, every email, every text. Enough to ensure you spend the next decade in federal prison. And that's just what we've gathered through private investigation. Imagine what the FBI would find with their resources. Russell's face had gone pale, but his mind was clearly racing. You're bluffing. You won't pursue this. The publicity would damage your precious company. Try me. Damon said calmly. Some things are worth the cost. A tense silence filled the room as Russell evaluated his options. Finally, he smiled. A predator recognizing a worthy opponent. Very well, he said. I underestimated you, Mr. Briggs. What precisely do you want me to do? Sign the documents Serena has prepared. Damon instructed. They outlined the terms. Full financial restitution, severance of all business connections related to my industry, and a binding non-disclosure agreement. And collect. Russell asked, what happens to her in this arrangement? That's between her and me. Damon said firmly. Your partnership is dissolved, effective immediately. Russell laughed bitterly. Thrown overboard at the first sign of trouble. And here I thought we had something special, my dear. Colette refused to meet his gaze. Sign the papers, Gavin. It's over. For the next hour, they worked through the legalities. Russell argued specific points, attempted to negotiate terms, but ultimately realized he had no leverage. By early afternoon, the documents were signed. We're finished here. Damon said, gathering the papers. You have 48 hours to initiate the financial transfers specified. After that, any deviation from our agreement activates the contingency clauses. Don't worry. Russell said, standing to leave. I know when I'm beaten. You'll have your money. After Russell departed, Colette remained seated, looking shell-shocked. Is it really over? That part is, Damon confirmed. Now we move to the next phase. Next phase. Colette looked confused. What do you mean? Did you really think a few signatures would be the end of it? Damon asked that after everything you two did, you could just walk away? Colette's face paled. But you said I said there would be no criminal charges if Russell complied. Damon corrected her. And there won't be. What happens next isn't about the law. It's about consequences. What are you going to do? Colette whispered. Damon smiled, but there was no warmth in it. Exactly what you tried to do to me. I'm going to take everything. Chapter 7, Smoke and Mirrors. The 48 hours following the meeting passed intense anticipation. True to his word, Russell initiated the financial transfers as specified in the agreement. Nearly $800,000 returned to Briggs Luxury Expeditions accounts from various sources, shell companies, offshore accounts, and personal holdings. It wasn't the full amount they had stolen, but it was significant. He's complying. Bennett reported, reviewing the transaction records. Though I'm surprised, I expected him to run. He thinks he's being smart. Damon replied. Sacrificing some money to escape the bigger consequences. What he doesn't realize is that every transaction gives us more information about his financial network. Colette had moved into a small apartment provided by Damon. A temporary arrangement until the divorce was finalized. The prenuptial agreement was in full force, limiting her settlement to $250,000 in a few personal possessions. Given the evidence of her betrayal, she was in no position to contest it. 10 days after the meeting, Damon called Vanessa to his home. She found him in his office, surrounded by documents and digital displays. How's the VR project coming? He asked as she wheeled herself into the room. Right on schedule, Vanessa replied. The prototype is functional, and the team is implementing the expanded features. But I don't think you call me here to discuss that. Damon smiled. His daughter knew him too well. No, I didn't. I called because it's time you knew the full plan. For the next hour, Damon outlined what he had set in motion. The legal agreements with Russell and Colette were just the beginning. A foundation for what would follow. The true retribution would come through a carefully orchestrated series of events designed to dismantle Russell's entire operation and leave both him and Colette with nothing. The key is the Coast to Recap property. Damon explained. Russell thinks he's protected it by keeping it under multiple layers of shell companies. What he doesn't know is that we've identified every layer and are systematically working through them. To what end? Vanessa asked. Even if you gain control of the property, it's just one asset. It's more than that, Damon said. It's their escape hatch, their security blanket. And more importantly, it's where they've been transferring funds that they don't want traced. We've confirmed at least $2 million move through accounts connected to that property, far more than they took from us. So they've been running the scam on multiple targets. Vanessa realized. Exactly. Damon nodded. And that's where your VR project comes in. Damon pulled up a presentation on one of the screens. The prototype Vanessa had been developing for Briggs Luxury Expeditions. It showed stunning virtual recreations of wilderness experiences, allowing potential clients to preview expeditions before booking. We're going to use this as bait, Damon explained. A new, revolutionary approach to luxury expeditions that promises massive returns for early investors. And guess who's going to be our primary target? Vanessa's is widened. Russell, along with every business contact he's cultivated during his schemes, Damon confirmed. We'll present it as an exclusive opportunity, limited slots, privileged access. The kind of deal his ego can't resist. But the project is real, Vanessa pointed out. It's actually going to work. The technology is real. Damon agreed. But the investment opportunity is smoke and mirrors. By the time they realize what's happening, it'll be too late. Over the following weeks, the plan progressed with precision. Damon's team worked silently, methodically, gathering information on Russell's network of contacts and co-conspirators. The legal paperwork was filed for the creation of a new subsidiary, Briggs Immersive Experiences, that would house the VR project. Meanwhile, Colette grew increasingly anxious in her temporary exile. Her calls to Damon went mostly unanswered, and when they did speak, he was coldly professional, discussing only the practicalities of the divorce proceedings. Her attempts to contact Russell were similarly rebuffed. He had withdrawn, focusing on salvaging what he could from the situation. 3 weeks after the meeting, the trap was ready to be sprung. Damon hosted an exclusive event at his most luxurious lodge, a demonstration of the VR technology for a select group of industry insiders. Russell, true to his opportunistic nature, had managed to secure an invitation through one of his remaining contacts. The presentation was spectacular. Vanessa had outdone herself, creating immersive experiences that transported viewers to the depths of untouched wilderness with unprecedented realism. The investment prospectus that followed was equally impressive, projecting returns that would make even the most conservative investor salivate. We're opening this opportunity to a limited group of partners, Damon announced to the assembled guests. Initial investment minimum is $500,000, with anticipated returns of 300% within 18 months. After the presentation, Russell approached Damon at the bar, his confidence apparently restored. Impressive technology, he said, swirling his whiskey. Your daughter is quite talented. She is, Damon agreed coldly. Though I'm surprised you'd mention her, given your partner's attitude toward her. Russell shrugged. Business is business. Personal feelings shouldn't interfere with a good opportunity. Is that what this is to you? Just another opportunity. Isn't that what it is to everyone here? Russell countered. We all want the same thing, Mr. Briggs. To profit from innovation. Damon studied the man who had nearly destroyed his family and business. Some of us want more than profit. Some of us value legacy, reputation, relationships, noble sentiments, Russell said dismissively. But at the end of the day, it's all about the bottom line. Speaking of which, I'm interested in discussing investment terms. Are you now? Damon raised an eyebrow. After everything that's happened? Water under the bridge, Russell said smoothly. We had our misunderstanding. But this, he gestured toward the VR setup. This is the future. I'd be a fool to let personal history prevent me from being part of it. Send your information to my office, Damon said after a calculated pause. We'll consider your application like any other. As Russell walked away, Bennett appeared at Damon's side. He took the bait? Of course he did, Damon said. Greed always overrides caution with men like him. Where are we with the Costa Rica property? Final paperwork was filed yesterday, Bennett reported. The holding company is now under our control. Russell has no idea. Good. Damon nodded. And the offshore accounts? We've identified all 7. The legal team is preparing the documentation to freeze them pending investigation of suspicious activity. Perfect, Damon said. Now we move to phase 2. The next morning, Damon received the expected call from Colette. You invited Gavin to your presentation? She asked, her voice a mix of disbelief and anger. After everything he did to us. Business is business. Damon echoed Russell's words. His money is as good as anyone else's. This doesn't make sense. Colette said. You were ready to destroy him 2 weeks ago. What changed? Perhaps I realized there are more profitable ways to resolve our differences. Damon suggested. The VR project needs capital. Russell has capital. He'll try to take control. Colette warned. That's what he does. Let him try. Damon said simply. Would you like to be part of the project, Colette? Given your intimate knowledge of Russell's methods, you could be valuable. The offer caught her off guard. Are you serious? Completely. Damon assured her. The divorce is proceeding. But that doesn't mean we can't maintain a professional relationship. Come to the office tomorrow. We'll discuss the possibilities. After ending the call, Damon turned to Perry Holt, who had been listening from across the room. She'll contact Russell immediately. Undoubtedly, Perry agreed. What do you think he'll do? Exactly what we want him to do, Damon said. He'll see this as an opportunity to recoup his losses and maybe even continue his original plan. Colette will present herself as our inside source, feeding him information while pretending to help me. And you're going to let this happen? Damon smiled coldly. I'm going to encourage it. Every piece of insider information Colette provides will be exactly what we want Russell to know. By the time they realize they're being played, the game will be over. Chapter 8, The Spring of the Trap. 2 days later, Colette arrived at Damon's office for their meeting. She was dressed impeccably, projecting confidence she clearly didn't feel. Thank you for seeing me, she said as she took a seat across from him. I've been giving you off for a lot of thought. And Damon prompted. I'm interested. Colette said carefully. But I have concerns. How would this work with the divorce proceeding? What would my role be exactly? The divorce is a personal matter. Damon explained. This is business. Your role would be consultant on investor relations, helping identify potential partners, facilitating connections, that sort of thing. Because of my social network, Colette nodded. Precisely, Damon confirmed. Despite everything, you still have valuable contacts. Contacts that could benefit the VR project. For the next hour, they discussed the details of the arrangement. Damon outlined the compensation structure, reporting relationships, and expectations. It was all perfectly reasonable, almost generous under the circumstances. There's one more thing, Damon said as they were concluding. Given your unique insights into Gavin Russell's methods, I'd like you to be our primary liaison with him. Should he decide to invest? Colette's surprise was evident. Though she tried to hide it. You're actually considering accepting his investment. Money is money, Damon said simply. And keeping potential threats close allows for better monitoring. Unless you're uncomfortable working with him. No, Colette said quickly. No, I can handle Gavin. I'm surprised you trust me with this. Trust is earned. Damon reminded her. Consider this your opportunity to start earning it back. After Colette left, Bennett entered the office. She made a call to Russell from her car. We recorded it as planned. And Damon asked. She told him everything. Just as we expected. Said you were surprisingly receptive to his investment and that she was going to be his inside person. Damon nodded, satisfied. Perfect. Now we accelerate the timeline. I want the investment packages ready by Friday. The investment structure for Briggs Immersive Experiences was deliberately complex, a labyrinth of holding companies, special purpose vehicles, and escrow arrangements. On the surface, it appeared designed to protect the groundbreaking VR technology and maximize tax advantages. In reality, it was constructed to create a one-way flow of capital that could be legally redirected under specific conditions. Russell, as anticipated, was among the first to submit his investment application. His proposed contribution was substantial. $1.5 million. Significantly more than the minimum requirement. What he didn't know was that every dollar would be channeled directly into the acquisition of his own assets. A week after the applications were submitted, Damon hosted a signing ceremony for the initial investor group at his downtown office. 12 investors, including Russell, gathered to formalize their participation in what was billed as the future of luxury experiences. Before we proceed, Damon announced once everyone was seated. I want to thank each of you for your vision and commitment. What we're creating here isn't just a business venture. It's a revolution in how people experience the natural world. The investors nodded appreciatively, eager to be part of something innovative and potentially lucrative. As outlined in your perspective, Damon continued. The initial capital will be held in escrow for 30 days while we finalize the technology patents. During this period, you'll have exclusive preview access to the system developments through our secure server. This was the critical hook. The promise of insider access that would keep the investors engaged during the crucial 30-day window when Damon's team would be executing the most delicate parts of their plan. The signing proceeded smoothly, with each investor executing the substantial document package prepared by Damon's legal team. Russell signed with particular flourish, clearly believing he had maneuvered himself into a position to recoup his losses and perhaps gain control of valuable technology. Immediately following the ceremony, Damon met privately with Vanessa, who had been monitoring the proceedings from an adjacent room. "All 12 signed?" she asked. "All 12, Damon confirmed, including 3 who have direct business connections to Russell. He's brought his confederates into the fold just as we hoped. And now we move against the offshore accounts," Damon said. "The signatures on those documents gave us the final legal authorization we needed." What Russell and the other investors didn't realize was that buried within the hundreds of pages they had signed were clauses that authorized specific security verification procedures for all connected financial entities. In essence, they had granted Damon's team permission to investigate their financial networks for potential conflicts of interest. 2 days later, those clauses were activated. Russell's 7 offshore accounts, the repositories of his ill-gotten gains from years of scams, were flagged for suspicious activity review. Simultaneously, the paperwork was filed to transfer ownership of the Costa Rica property from the shell company now controlled by Damon to a conservation trust, permanently removing it from Russell's reach. "He's going to realize what's happening," Vanessa pointed out when Damon briefed her on the progress. "What then? By the time he figures it out, it'll be too late," Damon assured her. "The financial mechanisms are already in motion. Besides, he still believes the VR project is legitimate and that his investment is secure. That belief will keep him from acting rashly for a few more critical days. And Colette, she's been calling me, trying to arrange lunch. Says she wants to reconnect." Damon's expression hardened. "Keep her at arm's length. Feed her the information we discussed, enough to make her believe she's gaining insight, but nothing of actual value." 3 weeks into the 30-day escrow period, Russell requested an urgent meeting with Damon. His typically polished appearance had begun to fray at the edges. His suit slightly rumpled. His expression strained. "There seems to be an issue with some of my accounts," he said without preamble when they met in Damon's office. "Accounts that have nothing to do with our business arrangement." "Oh," Damon raised an eyebrow. "That sounds concerning. Banking troubles can be such a headache." "This isn't a random glitch," Russell said coldly. "These accounts have been flagged for review after being linked to potential security concerns with Briggs' immersive experiences." "I know when I'm being targeted, Briggs." "I assume you've reviewed the investment documents you signed?" Damon asked mildly. "Standard security protocols require verification of all connected financial entities to protect the intellectual property involved. If your accounts were flagged, there must be a reason." "This is retaliation," Russell accused. "For what happened with Colette." "This is business." Damon corrected him. "Nothing more. Nothing less. If your financial affairs are in order, you have nothing to worry about. The reviews will be completed and access will be restored." "And if I withdraw my investment, that would be unfortunate," Damon said. "But as the documents clearly state, the early termination of an investment agreement triggers an automatic comprehensive review of all connected entities to ensure no intellectual property has been compromised. That process typically takes 6 to 8 months. I believe." Russell's face darkened with rage. "You've trapped me. I've protected my business interests," Damon countered, "as any prudent businessman would. Now, was there anything else you wanted to discuss? I have another appointment shortly." After Russell stormed out, Bennett entered the office. "He's making calls." "Lots of calls." "To whom?" Damon asked. "First to his attorney, then to several of the other investors, then to Colette. He's trying to organize some kind of unified front against us." "Perfect." Damon nodded. "The more he connects with the others, the more exposure we have to his entire network. Keep monitoring. I want to know every move he makes." 3 days later, the final phase of Damon's plan was ready. The evidence gathered through the security verification procedures had revealed far more than just Russell's scams. 3 of the other investors were implicated in various financial improprieties, all connected through a web of transactions that led back to Russell. More importantly, The full extent of Colette's involvement was now documented in irrefutable detail. Far from being Russell's victim, she had been an active architect of the scheme from the beginning, using her position as Damon's wife to target not just him, but several of his business associates. The morning of the confrontation, Damon met with Vanessa at her apartment. "Are you sure you want to be there for this?" he asked. "It's going to get ugly. I need to see it." Vanessa insisted. "After what they tried to do to us, after how they treated me, I need to see them face the consequences." Damon nodded, understanding his daughter's need for closure. "All right, but stay back, observe. Don't engage with him directly." "I know how to handle myself, Dad," Vanessa reminded him. "I've been watching you do it my whole life." At noon, the trap was finally sprung. Russell, Colette, and the 3 implicated investors arrived at Briggs Luxury Expeditions headquarters for what they believe was an emergency investors meeting. They had spent the previous day strategizing, preparing to confront Damon with legal threats and accusations of bad faith. Instead, they found themselves in a conference room with Damon, Bennett, Perry Holt, Serena Walsh, and representatives from the FBI's Financial Crimes Division. "What is this?" Russell demanded as he took in the scene. "Where are the other investors?" "The legitimate investors have been briefed separately," Damon explained calmly. "This meeting is specifically for those whose activities have triggered federal investigation." "Federal investigation?" One of Russell's associates paled visibly. "What are you talking about?" "Perhaps Agent Dawson can explain." Damon gestured to one of the FBI representatives. For the next 30 minutes, Agent Dawson outlined the evidence that had been gathered, not just against Russell and Colette, but against a widespread network of financial fraud that stretched back years and across multiple states. The security verification procedures in the investment documents had provided the legal access needed to uncover the entire operation. "This is entrapment," Russell sputtered when the agent finished. "You created a fake investment opportunity to lure us in." On the contrary, Damon corrected him. "Briggs Immersive Experiences is a legitimate business venture. The VR technology is real. The patents are valid. And the 9 legitimate investors will see excellent returns on their capital. The fact that you and your associates attempted to use it as a vehicle for continued financial crimes is unfortunate but not surprising. You set us up," Colette accused, turning to Damon. "This whole reconciliation, bringing me in as a consultant, it was all part of your plan." "Just as your marriage to me was part of yours," Damon replied coldly. "The difference is, my plan was legal." As the FBI agents began the formal process of detainment and evidence collection, Vanessa wheeled herself forward from the back of the room where she had been observing silently. "You know what I find most interesting?" she said, addressing Colette directly for the first time. "You couldn't even include me in a birthday party I organized. You couldn't see past this wheelchair to recognize me as family. But my father never saw it as a limitation. He saw me for who I am. And now I'm the one who designed the technology that brought you down." Colette had no response, her face a mask of shock and humiliation as the reality of her situation sank in. As the group was escorted from the room, Damon placed a hand on his daughter's shoulder. "It's over," he said quietly. Almost Vanessa corrected him. "There's still one more thing to do." Chapter 9: Ashes to Ashes. The federal investigation proceeded with remarkable efficiency fueled by the mountain of evidence Damon's team had compiled. Within weeks, Russell and his associates were facing multiple charges of wire fraud, money laundering, and conspiracy. The prosecutor's office, recognizing the strength of their case, offered plea deals to some of the smaller players in exchange for testimony against Russell. Colette's situation was particularly precarious. While the evidence against her was damning, Damon's legal team had carefully structured the investigation to give her a potential escape route, if she cooperated fully and returned every penny she had taken. 2 months after the confrontation, Damon received a request from Colette for a final meeting before her plea hearing. Against his better judgment, he agreed, arranging to meet her at a small cafe near the courthouse. She looked diminished when she arrived, the confident socialite replaced by a woman facing the ruins of her life. "Thank you for coming," she said as she sat across from him. "What do you want, Colette?" Damon asked, his voice neutral. "To explain, I guess. Not that it matters now." She stared into her coffee cup. "I didn't start out intending to betray you. When I met Gavin, it was just exciting. Different." He made me feel like more than just Damon Briggs's wife. And that justified stealing from me, trying to destroy my business, excluding my daughter from her own party. Colette wins at the mention of Vanessa. That was unforgivable. I know that. I let Gavin convince me that maintaining our cover was more important than basic decency. Is that why you asked for this meeting? To ease your conscience? No. Colette shook her head. I asked because I wanted you to know that I've provided the prosecution with everything. Every detail, every account, every conversation. Not just about our operation, but about Gavin's previous scams, his other partners. All of it. In exchange for leniency, Damon noted. Yes, Colette admitted. I'm not noble enough to face 20 years in prison if I can avoid it. But also because it's the only thing I can do to make any of this right. Damon studied the woman he had once loved, trying to reconcile the person across from him with the one he had married. It doesn't make it right, Colette. Nothing can do that, but it's something. The prosecutors say I'll likely get 5 years with the plea deal. After that, I don't know what happens. That's not my concern. Damon said, rising to leave. You made your choices. Now you live with the consequences. Wait. Colette called as he turned to go. There's one more thing. About Vanessa. Damon paused. What about her? Tell her I'm sorry. Colette said, her voice barely above a whisper. Not that it matters, but I am genuinely sorry for how I treated her. I'll tell her. Damon said after a moment. But you're right. It doesn't matter. Not to her and not to me. 1 week later, Russell and Colette entered their guilty pleas in federal court. Russell received 18 years for his role as the architect of the scheme, while Colette's cooperation earned her a reduced sentence of 4 years. The financial penalties were severe. Complete forfeiture of all assets derived from their criminal activities. By the time the legal proceedings concluded, Damon's team had successfully traced and reclaimed over $7 million from Russell's network of offshore accounts and hidden investments. The Costa Rica property, now permanently dated to a conservation trust, would never become the escape haven they had planned. 3 months after the Sentencing Breaks Immersive Experiences launched its first commercial VR expedition experiences. The technology developed under Vanessa's direction was revolutionary, allowing clients to experience customized wilderness adventures from anywhere in the world. The initial investors saw returns that exceeded even the ambitious projections. On the evening of the launch, Damon and Vanessa sat on the balcony of his ranch house, watching the same sunset he had observed the day he received Vanessa's call about planning Colette's party. How does it feel? Vanessa asked, knowing they can never hurt us again. Satisfying, Damon admitted, but not as satisfying as this. Seeing the business flourish, knowing your innovations will secure its future. I couldn't have done it without you, Vanessa said, not just the technology but handling everything, protecting us. That's what family does, Damon replied simply, real family. Colette's attorney sent me a letter, Vanessa mentioned after a comfortable silence. She wants to apologize in person. Are you going to see her? Vanessa shook her head. No. Some betrayals can't be forgiven. You taught me that. Damon nodded, understanding completely. In his world, loyalty was everything, and its absence was unforgivable. Those who betrayed him learned, too late, that his memory was long and his retribution absolute. To the future, then, he said, raising his glass. To the future, Vanessa agreed. Built on our terms, not theirs. As the sun disappeared behind the mountains, Damon felt a sense of completion. The threat had been eliminated, justice had been served, and most importantly, his daughter's legacy was secure. In the end, that was all that truly mattered. The gift Colette had received at her birthday party had been just the beginning, a preview of the destruction to come. The real gift, Damon realized, had been the lesson reinforced through this ordeal, that in a world full of betrayal, the only things worth fighting for her family and honor. And for those who threatened either, Damon Briggs would accept nothing less than total surrender.